In Stillwater, Oklahoma, a quiet industrial town with few visitors and fewer secrets, an extraordinary rumor began to ripple through the investment community. The story was simple but shocking. An American company had succeeded in producing rare earth magnets without relying on China. No Chinese ore, no Chinese refining technology, no Chinese components. A clean, self-sufficient American breakthrough. And at the center of this bold news stood a company almost no one had heard of before, USA Rare Earth. For those watching this as a short, click the full version link below the video to hear the complete story without interruption. Founded in 2019, USA Rare Earth began as a small, obscure mineral exploration firm. It had no mining track record, no production history, and no institutional reputation. Yet everything changed the moment it announced the discovery of a unique polymetallic deposit at Round Top Mountain in West Texas. The region, long considered geologically unremarkable, suddenly became the supposed epicenter of America's rare earth revolution. According to company statements, the Round Top deposit contained dysprosium, terbium, gallium, hafnium, and lithium, elements crucial for electric vehicles, guided missiles, and advanced semiconductors. In theory, it was the dream list of strategic resources. But to geologists, the announcement sounded almost too perfect. Typically, rare earth deposits are uneven. A mine rich in neodymium, for example, might contain almost no dysprosium, while a lithium-rich site might lack other rare earths entirely. Yet Round Top was said to contain nearly every critical element in balanced proportions. That combination is so statistically rare that one expert remarked, "It reads like a laboratory recipe, not a natural formation." And then came something even stranger. Normally, a mining company follows a strict order: exploration, feasibility study, financing, construction, production. Each phase takes years, but USA Rare Earth skipped several of these steps altogether. Almost immediately after its discovery announcement, it revealed a fully formed industrial plan spanning the entire supply chain, from raw ore extraction and chemical separation to alloy production and DFEB, neodymium iron boron, magnet manufacturing. It wasn't just ambitious, it was implausible. Vertical integration at that scale is something even state-backed enterprises struggle to achieve. How could a startup with no revenue and fewer than 30 employees present such a detailed, capital-intensive plan? Investors began to whisper about unseen sponsors, perhaps USL defense interests or government-backed funds, pushing a quiet strategic agenda under the guise of private enterprise. In early 2025, USA Rare Earth announced that it had successfully produced NdDFEB magnets at its Stillwater facility. This was no ordinary milestone. These magnets are among the strongest known to science, essential for electric motors, fighter jets, drones, and guidance systems. If true, the achievement would mark a turning point in the US-China technology race. But the press release left more questions than answers. There were no metrics, no yield rates, no external verification. The company didn't disclose which lab had tested the magnets or whether the rare earth metals truly came from Round Top ore. Normally, such data would be mandatory to gain investor confidence. USA Rare Earth instead offered only one phrase: self-produced, high-purity magnets. For analysts, that vagueness was suspicious. Some industry experts suggested the magnets could have been fabricated using imported refined metals rather than domestic ore. They argued that Round Top's known mineral grades were too low to produce commercial quantities of magnet material. If true, the company's historic breakthrough might have been more symbolic than scientific, a political statement packaged as technological progress. Then, just as scrutiny was intensifying, the company made another audacious move. It announced plans to acquire Less Common Metals, LCM, a UK-based firm specializing in rare earth alloys and metal production, one of the very few Western producers capable of competing with China's refiners. The price tag, roughly $100 million in cash plus 6.7 million shares of USA Rare Earth stock. The problem? USA Rare Earth had no revenue and had posted a $100 million loss the previous year. Under normal financial conditions, such an acquisition would be impossible without substantial backing or disclosed financing partners. But no banks, no private equity firms, and no government agencies were named. Instead, the company simultaneously announced a $15 per share equity offering, as if the capital were already guaranteed. This procedural inversion, announcing an acquisition before completing the fundraising, was profoundly unorthodox. In corporate finance, it typically signals that a buyer already has a back-channel funding agreement that cannot be publicly disclosed. Analysts began to wonder, was USA Rare Earth operating as a strategic proxy rather than a standard commercial entity? In March 2025, the company completed a SPAC merger and listed on the NASDAQ under the ticker USAR. The first day of trading was explosive. The stock soared, headlines cheered, and commentators hailed the return of America's rare earth independence. For a brief moment, USA Rare Earth looked like the darling of both Wall Street and Washington. But within 6 months, the mood shifted. The company abruptly replaced its CEO with Barbara Humpton, former CEO of Siemens USA, a respected figure with deep government and industrial ties. She promised transparency and operational clarity, yet subsequent disclosures remained vague. Financial statements omitted production volumes and detailed cost structures. Quarterly updates read more like press releases than technical reports. Meanwhile, rumors began to swirl that the company's first batch of dysprosium oxide, claimed to be 99.1% pure, might have been sourced not from Round Top, but from an overseas refinery, that the LCM acquisition included hidden debt obligations, and that certain strategic partners listed in filings were not actually independent. The company refused to comment. Silence became its signature. During this period, USAR's stock chart looked less like a company's valuation and more like a political seismograph. When the US government spoke of increasing rare earth reserves, shares skyrocketed. When China hinted at export restrictions, the stock plunged. In most cases, corporate earnings drive stock prices. Here, foreign policy did. Investors realized they weren't buying a business. They were buying an idea: American resource sovereignty. By September 2025, USA Rare Earth announced that the LCM acquisition was nearing completion. The press release subtly marked a strategic pivot, away from mining toward manufacturing. The company that once branded itself as a miner of the future was now positioning itself as a high-tech magnet producer. But this raised yet another question. If Round Top's reserves were truly as abundant as claimed, why downplay the mine? Typically, a mining company validates its resources before expanding downstream. Yet USA Rare Earth seemed to be doing the opposite, emphasizing output over origin. To skeptics, this suggested that the Round Top ore might not be as economically viable as advertised. And so the mystery deepens. Were the first magnets genuinely born of American soil, or were they the product of a grand narrative, an engineered symbol of independence rather than a literal achievement? The company's filings may all be legitimate, but legitimacy does not always equal transparency. Somewhere between the science, the policy, and the politics, the truth about USA Rare Earth remains buried, perhaps as deeply as the ore beneath Round Top itself. ValueStir is now inviting you to take part. If you know of listed, unlisted, or soon-to-be listed stocks or crypto projects that deserve investigation, share them in the comments below. Your insights and tips help shape our next story. And to everyone who watches, subscribes, likes, comments, or shares our videos, thank you. Your support helps us keep producing deeper, sharper, and more revealing content. This was ValueStir.